Well, good evening, everyone. Welcome into this weather update, this unfortunately severe weather update. Let's just get right to it. We'll start with the radar. We do have a squall line as we thought we would have. I will say, when we talked about this morning, we were thinking we had two chances for severe weather. First, thankfully, the first one did not pan out because of the cap. Thank you, cap. However, the cap is gone. Now, that's obviously not great news, but we don't have the environment where we see these supercells informing out ahead of this line like we saw pretty much everywhere north of Texas this afternoon, Illinois, Indiana, Oklahoma, just you name it. I think Kansas City was one of them. So a lot of bad weather north of us, but not great for those guys. But we missed that part of wave one. Now, wave two is coming, as you can see, and it's in the northwest part of Dallas County and just getting to the western part of Denton County and then on down to the south near Granbury, moving east at a pretty good clip. Put this in motion. Well, let me do this. And it's the reflectivity on it. You saw some pinks and purples there prior. You don't quite see that anymore. So, not anything to totally let your guard down, but we are seeing a slight weakening trend in the line. Now, we kind of figured that might happen as it got closer to the Metroplex, but it's, we're not out of the woods yet. That's for sure. Let me stop this. So, we have, I don't know if this is going to show, should. Let's see if I can get this to work. Yeah. All right. So this thunderstorm warning is for the part in the Metroplex. It's Denton County. 65 mile an hour wind gusts, quarter size hail. Neither one of those are great. You certainly don't want those in combination with each other because that would be wind driven hail. Now, I haven't seen, looking at the spotter reports, I haven't seen a lot of spotter reports with hail. A lot of radar indicated hail, but not a whole lot of ground truth to that. That doesn't mean it's not out there, but likely we haven't seen a lot of that as the line is moving further east. And again, the models were trending toward this way all afternoon in the sense that, hey, as the line moved further east, it would tend to weaken a little bit. Now, whether it weakens below severe criteria as it goes through the heart of the Metroplex, that's still to be seen. As you can see, we have a severe thunderstorm warning for Denton County, for Tarrant County. That is for 65 mile an hour winds and quarter size hail. Uh, that's an issue. Andrew says another channel had arrows pointing toward how. So curious what will happen. Not laughing, it's going how. Yeah, yeah. I mean, how is let's move this up a little bit. How being right there. Yeah, I mean, if you put this in motion, it's definitely coming your way. It's pretty much everybody in the Metroplex, everybody in North Texas is going to see this. Now, like I always like to say, not everybody's going to see the worst of the worst, thankfully, but hopefully the worst of the worst right now is some gusty winds and no hail. Now, like I said, we are not out of the woods yet. So it's definitely headed your way, Andrew. So, but you're not the only one. you're not in the you're not in your boat by yourself. That's for sure. So that's kind of a general idea. So let's just look at some graphics real quick. So this is a summary of the current watches and watches, I should say. I was going to say warnings, watches we have. So we have two watches in North Texas: a tornado watch, which is in yellow, and a severe thunderstorm watch, which is in the pink. The tornado watch goes till 11. The severe thunderstorm watch goes until 2 a.m. Now, for the Metroplex proper, I would we're not thankfully not going to have to deal with that until 2 a.m. So that's the good news. But again, they always err on the side of caution as far as when they plan on these expiring. But for the tornado watch, as you see on the left side of the screen, a few tornadoes, hail to softball, damaging wind gusts up to 80 miles an hour. We did see a little bit of that out in West Texas, so especially around the Abilene area. I think that threat is greatly diminished. So I really don't think we have to worry about certainly tornadoes in the traditional sense. So that's not a biggest concern. The bigger concern out of the two are the hazards with the severe thunderstorm watch. Damaging wind gusts up to 70 miles an hour, hail to 2 inches, a couple of tornadoes. And while all tornadoes are bad, if we did see tornadoes with this line, it'd be the spin up variety that would happen on the edge of the line. They still do damage, but right now we're not seeing a lot of that. So that's the good news. So hopefully that trend will continue. Now, to give you just a little bit overall picture of everything, this is the sphere potential through the rest of tonight. The top part of the graphics already gone 5 to 8. The evening part after 7, this greatest severe threat was kind of realized this afternoon is moving into Dallas Fort Worth, and it's going to continue to move on after 7, after midnight. Again, the worst case scenario, large hail, damaging winds, a tornado, or damaging winds up to 70 miles an hour, spin up tornadoes and large hail. Not seeing a lot of reports of that, so that is good. And as we get into tomorrow, most of this is going to move off to the southeast of Dallas Fort Worth. Good, so you still see some showers and thunderstorms in the morning, but it's going to be cooler. Not anything crazy cooler, but it's going to be cooler. And then just to put a bow on this part of the presentation, the rest of the week will be nice. Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, temperatures in the 70s and 80s, 60s tomorrow. Going to cool off on Monday, the first day of spring break for some of us, down to 58. That's about 10 degrees below normal. So it's definitely going to feel chilly on Monday, but the rest of the week's going to warm up. Not crazy warm up. It's going to be warmer than that. So spring break, if you have spring break next week, you should be fine from a weather standpoint. All right, so let's go back to the radar. So this is what we have currently, and so we're going to put on the velocity section, and thankfully, this is not near as impressive as it was before. Now, this is a little more jagged of a line than it was previously, and I put this in motion. Always going to the wrong screen here. You can kind of get an idea. See, so this is a couple of about an hour back. You can see this much more classic Boeing structure. We don't quite, and it's still, I mean, there's still wind there, don't get me wrong, but it's not quite as impressive. So hopefully that trend will continue. Now it is getting close to the radar site in south of Fort Worth, so that has a little something to do with it. But if I would think if that trend continues, we won't have as big of chance of seeing severe wind gusts over 60 miles an hour. We're not out of the woods yet, so don't let your guard down. But it's trending in the right direction. Now, that trend could reverse itself, that's for sure. But at least it's trending that way. So that is good. Let me get my mouse to where it works. The other layer we can look at, that's the base velocity. We can look at the storm relative velocity, and that just takes into account the speed at which this is moving toward the radar. It kind of compensates for that. But again, it's not, I mean, there's wind out there, no doubt about it, but it's not quite as impressive as it was a few hours ago. We'll put this in motion. Now, this gets a little messy with the radar, but you can see that surge that was heading toward North Fort Worth, and it's still there. Let me stop this. Put this over here. Do the latest frame. So you can still see that, there's a decent wind signature right there. And this particular warning is for 65-mile-an-hour wind gusts. Now, that is radar indicated. There's not ground truth to that. Now, I'm not saying it's not windy, but thankfully there's not a lot of ground truth to that. So hopefully that trend will continue. And actually, I'm going to do this. Let's put a different radar up here. Okay, we'll expand this out a little bit. Okay, let's zoom back in. So it's a little bit easier to read. So this severe thunderstorm warning for Denton County, excuse me. So they have observed 1-inch hail. That was from a spotter report. And the 65-mile-an-hour winds, they have not observed that. That's radar indicated. So that's good in the sense that it's not ground truth, but it certainly could happen. Hey Sherry, what is the purple over Denton? I'm assuming. Let me go back to that other radar we were looking at. So that purple is missing data. So that's good. It's not. That's a great question. So like if you see this purple like way over here, that's outside the radar range, and so that's why it shows up as purple. And so wherever you see this purple, it's just missing data. So it's not the worst of the worst. So that's a great question. It does look scary, that's for sure. But no, nothing going on in Denton right now. Although if we go back to the radar, let's zoom in on it a little bit for Sherry. So like I said, it's coming. There's no doubt about that. But it's not looking as impressive on radar. Doesn't mean anybody should let their guard down because these things can cycle up pretty quickly. So that is for sure. Um, all right, just got a spotter report in. Okay, so there's a 67-mile-an-hour wind gust just west of Decatur. That was probably 10, 20 minutes ago. So that would be Decatur being right here. So when that line went through, definitely had some punch to it there. Doesn't mean it's going to do that in Denton, but it's definitely possible. Just got a ham radio report in Denton County. Oh, okay. I was going to say it doesn't. Let's see. What was his? Oh, okay. He had a report from Cook County, which is north of Denton. There was a 78-mile-an-hour wind gust in Cook County, but that was north of Denton. So, okay, it was a Denton County spotter, but he was in Cook County. Okay. I just want to make sure I read that right. Let's see. I think that's okay. I don't see anything else, but basically, what the Weather Service, I don't see anything else from a spotter standpoint. But what the Weather Service is basically saying with this line is that you can definitely expect, 40 to 50-mile-an-hour winds with this line. So that's something that you can expect probably at a, well, I don't want to say minimum, but I hope it's more of a maximum if you know what I'm talking about. But I would say at a minimum, you're going to see 30-mile-an-hour gust and maybe a little higher. Hopefully that's it. If it stays in that realm, that won't really cause a lot of damage, if any. But when you get over 50, that's when things get a little more dicey. So hopefully that won't be the case. But that's why I like to look at spotter reports because radar is great and it's definitely a tool that we use to forecast the weather and watch the weather in real time. But if it's ground truth is way better because that's why the weather service loves their spotters because it tells them actually the radar can say one thing, but if it's got ground truth with spotters, that's why I like to go spot sometimes. That's what they want. They want that ground report. That way they can confirm whether the radar is telling them what they think it's telling them. All right, so let's put this in motion. Well, let's check before we do that. Let's check the velocity on this particular radar. Yeah, it's getting a little um, distorted, I guess you could say, because it's getting really close to the radar site, which is right here. So, but it still gives you an idea. And I think if we do storm relative velocity, yeah, it's not anything that's thankfully that impressive. Well, I say that, of course, I stick that on there. It's probably hard to see, but at 2,000 feet, there's a 58 mile an hour wind gust at 2,000 feet. So, like I've always said, remember when the radar shoots the beam out, it shoots it out at an angle, and of course, the further away you are from the radar, the the higher up it scans in that particular cell. So that's why here it's about 2,000 feet high. It's 58 mile an hour wind gust. That means it's reaching the surface. So that's why radar is great, but by the same token, it doesn't mean that that's what's happening on the ground. Let's see. Andrew? Are the white lines the direction of the storms? Yes. And let me go back to the reflectivity. You can see them a lot better. Yeah. So those are storm tracks, and so that's a great question you're bringing up, Andrew, because it's a little deceiving because these storm tracks. Let me zoom in a little bit, minimize this for a second. So you kind of get the sense that now this one's northeast, that one's more northeast, I guess you could say. So it's a little deceiving only in the sense that the individual cells and they're embedded. I don't want to call them supercells because they're not really behaving like supercells, but they're multicellular. These individual cells are moving north and northeast in within the line, but the line itself is moving to the east. So the storm tracks aren't necessarily for the line itself; it's just for the individual cells, and that's what you see there. So yes, but it is a direction that the cell is moving. And yes, Andrew, tell your mom I said hello. It's great to hear that. Cresta hoping no tornadoes. Me too. As I said earlier, it's not a great setup for that anymore. The biggest threat we have for tornadoes in this particular setup would be spin up tornadoes on the front of the line. And that's typically you see that with kinks in the line, if you will. And so in other words, you have this kind of straight line or angled line, and then but there's a little kink in it. That's what you have to watch out for as far as, that's where tornadoes can spin up. Notoriously hard to predict and notoriously hard to warn because they spin up real quick and they spin down real quick. Doesn't mean they can't do damage, excuse me, in the meantime, but it's definitely something to watch. But right now, we're not seeing a lot of that. Okay, so let's go back to velocity and do some samples here. All right, so again, this radar is remember the radar with the internet is just a tad behind, so it's not real time. But it gives you an idea of what's going on. So this south of Benbrook, a 41 mile an hour wind gust. Now, if you look, it's like 500 feet above the ground because the radar site's right here. So if you live anywhere like really close to the radar site, you're going to get a pretty accurate uh, description of how strong the wind is close to the ground because it's so close to the ground. The further out you get from the radar, 3,000 feet, 4,000 feet up, then that's where you're going to get the wind measurements uh, that far up above the ground, but it's not necessarily the speed measured at the ground. So kind of come up this way a little bit. And again, it's probably a little distorted because of the radar, but right now you're not seeing a whole lot here, and you get little gustier winds out behind the line. Looks like some of these areas back behind Granbury may be seeing some stronger winds. They're not associated with the edge of the squall line, but it could be associated with precipitation. Let's go back to reflectivity. And a lot of times, what happens, I don't know if it's the case here, but a lot of times on the backside of these line of thunderstorms, you will get this downdraft of the wind from the anvils, and that may be what's happening there. Not really sure, but that definitely could be the case there. All right, so looks like we're just coming into downtown Fort Worth, Keller, North Richland Hills. So if you know people, nothing to be terribly alarmed about, but if you know people in that part of town, eh, I hope they're aware of what the weather possibilities were today. But if you think they're not for some reason, then just give them a text. Just say, hey, doing okay? Got storms coming your way. Up in Denton County, you see this line progressing pretty good. And let's just do a quick velocity. So probably you see some 30-mile-an-hour gust in there. So that's good in the sense that it's not um, nothing crazy. But go back to reflectivity there. All right, let's see if we got any more storm reports. All right, so the weather observer in Roanoke so far measured 29-mile-an-hour wind gusts, which that's awesome. Because I'll take 29-mile-an-hour over the alternative. Hello, Laura. My good buddy in Saxe. We're not with the show hasn't reached us yet, but probably will be here. What time is it? After 10, maybe 10:15, 10:30. Just depends. That's probably when it's going to reach Saxe. Hopefully, we won't have a severe thunderstorm warning that is attached to it. Let's see if they've updated these warnings at all. Okay, so that's actually good. So the severe thunderstorm warning for Denton County, if you remember, it was initially warned with a 1-inch hail that was observed, and then wind 65 miles an hour that was radar indicated. Now it's when they updated the warning, it's now a 3/4 inch hail, which is less than severe. That's nickel size, basically, maybe a little smaller, but it's radar indicated. So they haven't seen any reports lately of hail. And the 60-mile-an-hour wind is still radar indicated, but it's gone down 5 miles an hour from the original warning. So that's good. So that's what we want to see. That we want to see that trend go down. Take this off here on the Tarrant County warning. Let's see. 60-mile-an-hour winds and penny-sized hail, and it's not going to show up on here. Although I don't know if I could get the history on this. Yeah, I forgot what it was originally, but I think it's come down originally from what it was warned. So that's good. We're seeing the weakening trend. Mr. Spencer, will Uber deliver your Whataburger in this weather? Absolutely. Whataburger, that's kind of like the mail, right? It's rain, sleet, snow, hail. And they will deliver Whataburger. Sirens in Hazlitt, Christian. Okay. I'm not sure why, but let's zoom in on Hazlitt. I don't see. Let's see. I'm looking. I don't see anything that would warrant that. I mean, the velocity is just looking up this line, up and down this line. Okay. Well, like I said, I'm not sure why, but I mean, I guess if you were doing it out of abundance of caution, maybe, but I don't. That's tricky because if you warn, if like I don't know what's going on, so this is all a caveat. But if you're warning for, hey, it might be this, but it's not, then unfortunately, sometimes what happens is the next time you have this event and it really does warrant that, but you just don't want people not to pay attention. Not saying that's what's going on here, but that's interesting. Um, it's pouring down in Denton. I'm not. I'm not surprised. It is. It's coming down a little bit. Uh, eh, I wouldn't call it a Boeing structure, but there might be some. Yeah, okay, nothing crazy. I was gonna say there might be some enhanced winds there, but it doesn't look like it. It's just a heavy precipitation band. All right. Mr. Jamerson. So, what time could this storm reach Garland and Saxe? Great question. So, talked about that just a little bit a few minutes ago. Right now, on this current speed and trajectory, probably after 10, 10, 15, 10, 30, something like that. Eric, if sirens go off in Saxe, actually, I forgot I can do this. My bad. Let me do this. If sirens go off in Saxe while there's that indication of tornado, not necessarily. So, um, oh, I'm getting reports about 6. Yeah, there's been a couple reports, Jamerson, about that. Not widespread, thankfully. But go back to Eric's question. No, it doesn't mean if the sirens go off in Saxe or Wiley, it doesn't necessarily mean that there's a tornado. There's really two basic criteria that they look at when they're potentially activating the sirens. One is a tornado, of course. Now it doesn't have to be a confirmed tornado on the ground. It's could be a radar indicated tornado or a cell on radar that has a lot of rotation. That'll get you a tornado warning. Just say, hey, a tornado could form at any minute. The other one is well, there's two others. The next one is hail, and if hail is destructive, then not just any hail, that they could do the sirens for that. That's typically 1.75 inches and higher, so golf ball size hail and higher or bigger. And then the other thing is if the weather service is warning for 70-mile-an-hour wind gusts, then that would trigger it for most cities. The North Central Texas Council of Governments has a recommended criteria that all cities try to follow the same criteria, what I just told you. That way, if someone sounds their sirens and another city doesn't, that gets a little confusing. But you don't have to follow those. Cities can do what they want, technically, but we try to be consistent in what we're doing. So, if you hear a siren, outdoor siren, definitely take it seriously because it's either one of those three things. It's the storm's been warned for a tornado. It's hail. Basically, I kind of say 2 inches in diameter, and winds measured at 70 miles an hour. So we haven't got a lot of that. Well, at least not in this part of Texas. Now, in West Texas, yeah, we have some reports of that. Not here. Hopefully, it will stay that way. All right. Let me check the reports here. See if there's anything else. We've had some damage reports out in West Texas. On Instagram, did you see the tornado emergency in Illinois earlier? I did. Yeah, I did. That storm, if you know who Reed Timmer is, world famous, I guess you could say, storm chaser, PhD in meteorology from University of Oklahoma. Um, he's definitely he on his social media. He's an extreme meteorologist. He's definitely a meteorologist. He's definitely extreme. That's for sure. I like following him on YouTube. If you want to see some wild stuff, go follow Reed Timmer on YouTube. But yes, I did see that, and that supercell that spawned like more than one tornado has been around on the ground. I haven't checked lately because I'm broadcasting right now, but it was on the ground for the supercell, I should say, was going on a track for over 100 miles. So it is. Oh, you're welcome, Eric. Yeah, no problem. That's what I'm here for. Education, education, education. All right, so I'm just gonna look at some more spotter reports here. Some wind damage out in northwest Texas. Yeah, it looks like up in Cook County in Gainesville, that's where it had some stronger winds, 73 miles an hour. Where was that at? 3 miles northwest of Gainesville. had some power lines down, so definitely had some winds up that way. Um, let's see. All right, looks like the weather service is going to issue severe thunderstorm warnings for, and they just came out, Grayson, Collin, Dallas, and Rockwall County. All right, and there it is. Not all Dallas County. Um, okay, not much of a hail threat, less than 3/4 of an inch. Remember, the severe criteria is an inch, and wind 60 miles an hour. They're both radar indicated, so that's good in the sense that, like I said, if it's observed, that's a little more concerning because that means that yes, actually has happened somewhere. Um, again, like I said before, radar is a great tool, and the Doppler radars we have now are way more advanced than they were when I was growing up. And so that's a good thing. However, you know, because the radar indicates it doesn't necessarily mean that that's happening on the ground. All right. So looks like that's about to come out here any moment. My weather radio hasn't gone off. And by the way, hopefully you have a weather radio. I talk about that all the time. All right. Let's see what we got here. Let's see. All right, looks like there's quite a bit of heavy rainfall rates with the storms, which is not surprising. So it looks like we're going to be getting a flash flood warning for also, in addition to this severe thunderstorm warning, for Denton, Collin, Tarrant, and Dallas counties. So not expecting widespread flooding, but there could be some pockets of flooding. So just FYI. All right, let's see if there's anything else. Okay, I don't see anything else at the moment. Put this in motion. Let's expand it out a little bit. Let's put this in motion here. So a general motion to the east, but you kind of get a little sense that it's east northeast. So kind of gives you an idea about that. And not sure why my weather radio hadn't gone off yet. That's interesting. Should have already gone off. Okay, I'm glad Miss Parker said this. Looks up weather radios on Amazon. Yeah, you can get them for about $30. You could get really fancy ones, and probably just for weather nerds like me. Yeah, and I said this in my weather update yesterday, is that you know that they do go off. They're designed to be loud. They're designed to wake you up in the middle of the night. Thankfully, with this scenario, we won't really have to deal with an overnight thing. I mean, you may hear some rumbles of thunder and some lightning, but it's not gonna be anything crazy. Knock on wood. But yeah, they're in the middle of the night. They're designed to wake you up. And like I said last night, I hear the argument all the time. I got the alerts. I got my phone. And okay, well, two things. One is your phone on sleep? Mine is, except for certain numbers, of course. And you know, are your alerts turned on? Because your alerts aren't automatically turned on your phone. Now, even if both that's true, it's not on sleep or you got your alarms turned on. If you have really bad weather in the middle of the night, your cell tower could go out, get knocked down. And then what do you got? Your cell phone's not going to work. So that's why the weather radio is always your backup. And by the way, you don't even have to have power. I definitely use it plugged in before, but I it's always got battery in it. So if the power goes out, which in the worst of the worst storms it's going to, then you're going to have backup. Your batteries are going to take care of you. So just a little plug for weather radios. So you can get them on Amazon and you would be good to go. I promise you, they'll come in handy one day. I promise you. Yeah, it looks like all the reports on the wind, the stronger wind is north of DFW right now. So that's definitely good. But like I said, not out of the woods yet. All right. So let's zoom in a little bit here. a little bit of development outside this line, but not to be terribly concerned about. If they were way out here and much bigger, that would be a little different. These will probably get absorbed by the line here pretty quickly. All right, let's look at velocity. Yeah, nothing. I mean, got some 30-mile-an-hour, 40-mile-an-hour in there, but nothing crazy, thankfully. There's reflectivity. Okay, so back on Instagram, Miss Campbell, you're welcome. Thank you for keeping us up to date with the weather. You're very welcome. Thankfully, right now, it's not too bad, and hopefully it'll stay that way. You're welcome. Jenny, I appreciate you saying that. Whoops, we don't want that. All right. All right. So, in summary, in case you're just joining us, which I know some of you are, severe thunderstorm warnings for Denton, Dallas, Collin, and Tarrant counties, varying expiration times. Mainly warned for wind. Okay, my weather radio finally went off. It's like the issues of like 10 minutes ago. I don't know what's going on there. But anyway, that's just what I was talking about. Severe thunderstorm warnings for the new ones are for Dallas and Tarrant County. Excuse me, Dallas and Collin County. Warned for wind. Hail's not out of the question, but it's looking like it's less and less of a concern with these line of storms. So it is 9:45 now. The expected arrival time in my core fan base of Saxe, Garland, Wiley, Murphy is probably after 10 p.m. And if you zoom in, or if I zoom in on this, right now the leading edge is at basically DFW Airport. And put this in motion here. Moving at a decent clip, so that's good. So it's going to be a little bit after 10 when it reaches past US 75. But if you're in, Prosper and Frisco, McKinney, Allen, Richardson, yeah, definitely around 10 o'clock. Right now, hopefully the worst you'll experience is very heavy rain, a lot of lightning, some thunder, and gusty winds. My definition of gusty winds are not damaging winds, just gusty winds. And right now, the trend is continuing not to see severe gusts, which technically 58 miles an hour, but really, to be simple, 60. So thankfully, we're not seeing a lot of reports of that. And I was checking again to make sure I didn't miss anything. And all these severe wind gusts have been north of Dallas Fort Worth. Let's see. Did they say how fast this was moving? Moving northeast at 55. Okay. Okay, I didn't think it was quite moving that fast, but okay, I guess it is. But again, it doesn't really change the timeline. I think the timeline is a little after 10 o'clock for most of us east of US 75. Yeah, Andrew, our pond's already past normal levels, so we'll see what tomorrow brings. Yeah. Well, your pond's definitely going to get a little fuller, but these are moving at 55 miles an hour, and so it's going to be a lot of heavy rain in the short term, but it won't last very long. So unless your unless your pond is already at the brim, it's going to spill over with nothing, with a drop of rain. Then you're probably going to be okay. And you're going to need that water in the summer because it's going to quit raining. Let's check the weather reports here. Spotter reports. Don't really see anything of concern, which is good. All right. Well, probably going to wrap this up here pretty soon. If you have a question in the chat, or put it in the chat, and I'll be happy to answer it really quickly before we sign off. And as always, of course, if you have a question after I sign off, you can always put it on the post and I will do the best I can to answer it. But let's just kind of end with a summary here. All right. So, going to put this in motion and not too not too bad. And let's stop this one and go back to this other radar. I think it has a little more history to it. There we go. All right. It's a little easier to see this. So let's put this in motion. So again, when it was west of Fort Worth, a little more impressive. And but now a little more purples and pinks. And now we're getting don't see as much of that. You're welcome, Sherry. And so here's what I will leave you with. I don't plan on coming back on tonight unless it really goes south really fast. Not saying it's impossible, but it's not trending that way. Um, so here's what you can expect. Pretty much if you're anywhere east of this line right now, but let me stop this line. Let me stop the radar. So if you're in Collin County, Denton County, Grayson County, and on down to the south, don't do that. Uh, Ellis County, south of Dallas Fort Worth, you can expect this to blow through your area the next anywhere from 15 to 30, 45 minutes. Obviously, the further east you are, it's more like 45 minutes. Gusty winds, lightning, thunder. If you are one of the unfortunate ones, some small hail, but I don't even see that much anymore. And then it's going to last 10 minutes, 15 minutes. I mean, the worst of the worst. You can see a lot of rain behind it, so it's not going to quit raining. But, you know, good sleeping weather, as they say. And as a matter of fact, the one thing I don't have on here is lightning. Let me put that on real quick. Yeah, nothing. I was wondering if there's a bunch of lightning back here. No, but there's some lightning here. I know it's real hard to see, so it's not really going to do you any good. So like I said, gusty winds. Maybe it's a small hill if you're unfortunate, if you're unlucky, but it's going to blow through 15 minutes, 20 minutes tops, and then you're going to see it calm down quite a bit. You're welcome, Amy. I appreciate what you do for Saxy. So there you go. So not as bad as it could have been. Now we're not done with it yet, but so far it's trending that way. And much like this past Friday, in the early part of the day, could have saw some bad weather. We didn't, and that's a blessing for sure. But there's this is the very beginning of severe weather season, so we're going to do this a lot over the season. So that's what I'm here for. I'm here to take care of you and educate you and let you know what's going on. And like I said, in case you missed it, this is what we have to look forward to after tomorrow. Nice into the week, into the weekend, really. Going to cool off on Monday, 58. That's 10 degrees or so below normal for this time of year. So it's going to be chilly on Monday for the start of spring break for most of us. But it's going to warm up again next week. Nothing crazy, but get back into the 70s. So that's what we had to look forward to next week, or at least, I should say the rest of this week. Here we go. This is the last look at the radar. If there's something, Miss Newkirk, you are very welcome. If there's something, like I said, if there's something crazy that goes on, which this is Texas, I will definitely hop back on. But I don't anticipate that. We should to see the stormy weather, and then, like I said, 10, 15, 20 minutes, it'll be over. And then you can all go to bed because that's what I'm doing. Because I'm still adjusting to the time change, especially in the morning. It's kind of tough in the morning. All right. I don't see any other questions in the chat. So with that, I will sign off. But as always, I am watching the weather, so you don't have to. Let me make sure what this is. Hold on. My weather radio is going off. I don't see anything. Let's see. Oh, that's the old one. Okay, that's a flash flood warning. Okay. I just didn't want to sign off if the weather radio was going off or something crazy. Okay, let me try it again. As always, I'm watching the weather so you don't have to. Hope everybody has a great rest of your evening, what's left of it. Stay safe out there. Could have been worse. We'll see what Mother Nature brings us next time. But in the meantime, have a good evening, and I'll catch you on the next one.